Hey everyone, this is Nitro. For the second video in the month 11 party status update video, I am going to be covering the healers that I have built up, because I actually have quite a few of them built up, both for Guild Wars as well as PvP content. Now, before I go into the healers though, I should mention that I have created a new playlist on YouTube. The link to this playlist will be in the video description, and it links to the past hero status update videos that I've done, like the longer ones. So I think I did one at like the second month, at like 3.5 months, at 5 months, at 6.5 months, at 8.5 months, 9.5 months, and then now at 11 months. So those older ones will be shorter, obviously, because they have fewer heroes, but you know, it covers mostly the parties that I used at those points in time, and characters, of course. So with that said, let's talk about the healers that I have built up and get right into it. So the healers that I personally use are as follows. There's actually quite a lot of them. That's why I wanted to cover them separately in a video first, because they go along with the tanks very well and along with Guild Wars. Okay, so the healers are, of course, the PvP oriented ones like Iris and Chloe, right? These two are completely PvP oriented primarily. There's the good for both PvP and PvE healers, the SSRs, right? Which is Tiaris and Liana. And then there's 3 other healers that I've used in the past, depending on content. For example, I really do classify Imelda as a healer, even though she's not exactly a primary healer, because she is more of a support character in general, right? She's more about applying the Queen's Gauntlet buff on allies, about regrowth, and then she usually carries either Mass Heal or Dispel to help do some support healing. And she'll only have one attack skill, which would be Freeze Strike. So I do kind of classify Imelda as a healer. I used her for Season 1 of Apex Arena quite a bit, but to be honest, after Season 1, she's kind of fallen to the wayside. So in some ways, putting the 2 runestones into my Imelda was a bit of a waste. I haven't really used her since, except for Guild Wars. So in some ways, the 2 runestones were a bit of a waste, but it is what it is. And then, other than Imelda, of course, I bring Sophia along as a healer very often. I still use her for Timeless Trials and so on, and she is set up in a way where she's primarily highly maneuverable with speed boots, and she's just moving around to help do support healing. The crazy thing is, she currently does not have a staff, because I removed her staff to give it to someone else. So she does almost no healing. But in the first place, I primarily use her for regenerate and rewind, right? So the fact that she doesn't really provide healing, that is not a big deal in general. With that said, I will currently give her, I guess, a Goddess's Left Hand. Let's raise this up to level 20 and enchant it with Tree of Life, and then she'll be good to go. I actually completely forgot she had no staff. The reason for that I'll cover very shortly, but essentially it was because of Yulia. Let me just finish enchanting this, and then I'll go into that, because I know I'm going to forget otherwise. So let's toss on a Tree of Life enchant for now. I may roll for a higher percentage in the future, but right now this is more than fine. Okay. So, Sophia is another healer I use, of course, for PvE clear. And last but not least, the healer that I also use is Almeda. And you can see here, Almeda has very much like a broken set of hand-me-down kind of equipment. There's a Holy Ring, a Sage's Hat, both with full moon enchants on them. And then there's like a level 30 Galaxy Cloak and a level 30 Blue Moon, both of which are currently being built up to level 50. Just as I pick up SSRs of these items, I upgrade them. But I'm not in a rush, so I don't need to get Epic Martial Spirits for it. The interesting thing is, I used this Almeda for clearing the level 65 Phoenix battle, right? And she's never gotten her class mastery complete. It's always been at 3 out of 4. But with that said, for that fight, she was there as primarily as a secondary healer and debuffer, right? She would apply debuffs, damage debuffs with Tornado, debuffs via her talent, right? And secondary healing via her talent and via casting heal spell. So in that sense, she didn't truly need to be at full class mastery, because even at 3 out of 4 class mastery, she was healing enough to bring my other characters to full hit points. Of note though, for that specific fight, she obviously didn't bring this broken set of gear. She would get a set of gear from another healer. For example, I think at that time, whenever I used her, I simply transferred Tiaris' set of gear to Almeda, and then I also brought Liana to the Phoenix 65 fight. So that's the way it worked out. If at that time I didn't even have Tiaris properly built, I might have just transferred, like, let's say Lana's set of gear over to Almeda. You know, just a level 50 SSR set to maximize her int. That was well done. So that really covers all the healers that I use, and there's quite a few of them, right? There is 4, 5, 6, 7 healers, just like that. So the nice thing about having 7 healers is nowadays when I do Guild Wars, I simply auto battle it. I usually just do 3 battles per week, or 3 battles every day. But with 2 days, I'll get over 5,000 via auto battling. So for example, this week, I think what I did was I did auto battle of Meteor, right? Bringing Juggler, Zerda, Omega, Narm, Cherie, and a healer. Then I did an auto battle of the Empire one, right? I think I used Bernhardt as my tank with Lava Titans, with, you know, Leon, Liana, and other Empire characters. And then I think I actually did Elect Legends. So Landius, Tiaris, Rachel, Listel, Rene, right? And then I think Shafaniel. And then I actually did, I think, a 4th auto battle because I brought, to the Empire one, I brought Ledin, Elwyn, and so on, right? So having all these tanks that I covered yesterday and all these healers lets me just auto battle at least 4 battles, if not even 5. This week, Freya had no use because there was no Princess battle or no Origins of Light, so I didn't end up using her for any of the fights. But usually Freya is used for an auto battle fight as well. So it lets me auto battle this without having to play it out, and it gets me to 5k points guaranteed in 2 days. So, and that's, of course, in combination with all the healers that I have. So, with that said, let's go into each individual healer then, and we'll go from, you know, top to bottom as always by their power level. So first things up first is Tiaris, who actually somehow has the highest power. At 6614. In terms of soldiers, I gave her Bolt Rangers because Bolt Rangers have the effect of, if attacked, when your hit points is above 50%, you have a 100% chance to decrease damage taken by 50% before entering battle. It makes Tiaris ridiculously hard to one-shot. Over and over again, in Season 1 and Season 2 of Apex, I've won matches by having Tiaris tank a hit and not die in one shot. She makes a great bait in that sense with the Bolt Rangers. So even though she has decreased healing, because she's not bringing, let's say, Holy Knights with the increased healing and so on, it works out perfectly. Yeah. I don't use Tiaris to attack very often in the first place, so there's no need to bring sorceresses. And she usually just, she's usually just casting Attack Blessing and Miracle and heals on allies. In terms of her equipment, she has the Goddess's left hand for the rare opportunity when she does attack, let's say, enemy Lancers, to disable their guard, so that Leon can target something and actually kill it. Right? She has a Depth's Robe, which is actually an imperfect piece of gear. This Depth's Robe should really be replaced with a Tenuous Robe, but I don't have one for my Tiaris. And you know what? It's fine. I mean, it's rare that Tiaris gets one-shotted, as I previously mentioned, so it kind of works out. And then there is the Yggdrasil Reef, which does give us 10% hit points, and it's her staples gear because I usually use her with Landius, so she keeps up with Landius, applying Yggdrasil Reef on Landius all the time. And then the final piece of gear is Teddy Bear, simply because of PvE context. Attack Blessing, lasting 1 extra turn, so that it has a 3-turn, it lasts for 3 turns rather than 2 turns, is absolutely huge. Okay. It's very much a critical piece of equipment in my opinion for Hugin and Munin. So that is my Tiaris' set of gear. And then in terms of bonds, Tiaris is fully upgraded. That's why she's at the top here. 96%, right? Max, 99. And Heart Bond is maxed out. You know. What you can expect to see is most of my healers are very heavily upgraded because, especially in Season 1 of Apex Arena, what I found was as long as your healers survive, you have a very, very good chance of winning. But if your healers get killed by the enemy AoE attacks, you've lost. So as a top priority, I ended up building up my healers first more than anything else. So in terms of enchants, she runs Full Moon because the Full Moon gives plus 10% to all stats, right? So that includes intelligence, defense, magic defense, and attack, even though attack doesn't matter. So the advantage of that is she's very hard. It made her harder to one-shot, right? And she's actually effectively getting plus 15% intelligence, 5% from the 2-piece bonus, and 10% from the 4-piece bonus from the enchant. The drawback, of course, is when she gets knocked below 80% hit points, there is no bonus on your Tiaris. Nonetheless, if she's healthy, with Full Moon, she has high enough intelligence that she can actually do single target strikes, even in PvP, and actually do a lot of damage to the enemy. Right? So that is the advantage of running the Full Moon set. With that said though, the fact that both of her gear, the Goddess's Left Hand and the Teddy Bear, both provide heal effect plus percentage, is a big demerit. Because she's basically missing 20% int in that sense, right? She has 30% healing effect, but she doesn't have the 20% int. So she does not hit as hard as some of my other healers do. Finally, the class mastery enchants. You can see here, there's 46 int. There's only 26 skill, and I never did hit points yet. This is in large part because she is in her mage class, and I have too many mages. Okay. Bozo, Lana, Rachel, Tiaris, Liana, the mages list goes on and on. Iris, Imelda, just too many mages. I was focused on building up some of my other mages at that time, so Tiaris is not fully upgraded yet in this sense. So that pretty much sums up my Tiaris. But once again, despite all that, my Tiaris is still the highest power out of my healers, which is kind of bizarre to me. So, moving on. That covers, I think, everything with Tiaris. So let's now talk about the second healer, which it's actually still not Liana. Okay, second healer is Iris. 62 power. Okay. Iris has a very weird enchant in that she has two sets of 2 greens. Okay, there's 2 Tree of Life enchants and then 2 Steel enchants. The reason for this is because it's giving her 20% additional hit points. So that is my goal originally for PvP, was to get all my healers roughly above 6,000 hit points. Right, that was kind of like the baseline that I decided on in terms of hit points. So you can see Tiaris is actually below that, but because she has the Bolt Rangers, I was okay with it. Iris, by comparison, is just above that. And in large part, that's due to the extra 10% from this combo here. So, and in terms of the enchant values, right, there's 11% int with 10 int on the Goddess's Left Hand. There's 10% hit points with 3% int on the Galaxy Cloak. Sage's Hat also has 11% hit points with 5 int. And then finally, the Goddess tier, I focus more on hit points, so she has 10% hit point boost here with 3% int. So my goal for these healers was, as I said, survivability. So I enchanted more for hit points than int, in truth. Although even in terms of intelligence, this is still okay. I think you can say this is pretty much, let's say, I don't know, 13%. 13% plus 3 is 16%. 16% plus another 5, 17%. 17% plus 3% would be a 20% int increase. Yeah. It's not as high as it could be, the intelligence increase, but it does enough in terms of making Iris able to heal up my party, and the hit points allows her to survive a lot of things that she otherwise wouldn't. Right? So there's 10%, 21%, 31% hit point increase. So there you go. So that's Iris. Bonds wise, I think Iris is close to completion. I'm not sure she's fully complete though. Let's see, 90%. Yeah, not fully complete. The heart bond is not fully upgraded, left at level 7 at this time. And the strength bond is at level 8. So, so that's everything about Iris, I think. And of course, Iris has double class mastery. I think pretty much all the PvP healers do have double class mastery. So Tiaris, of course, double class mastery. And yeah, let's just move on to talk about the third healer, also PvP oriented, which will be Liana and Chloe. Right? Oh, Chloe first, because somehow Liana is my lowest power. Interesting. Okay, so Chloe. It's very interesting because both Iris and Chloe are both 5 stars, right? I've never grinded their shards and don't plan to. So I'm surprised that they're a higher power than Liana is. But continuing on, Chloe is the reason why Chloe has Chloe has double class mastery, first of all, okay? Just like any other PvP healer. Second of all, her skills change depending on what I need her to do, but usually it's Aurora Ring, heal, and the third skill changes. Sometimes it's mass heal, sometimes it's discipline, sometimes it may be blizzard, and sometimes I may actually choose to bring Starglow. Just depends on whether I have another healer brought along or not. In terms of equipment wise, the interesting thing here is you see that there's 3 SR items here, right? And she's also running a broken set. There is 2 crystal enchants and then 2 tree of life enchants for the hit point boost. The reason she's running a broken set though is because the green leaf coat has a very nice enchant on it. 10% hit points, 34 hit points, and 4% int. Combo with that 10% hit points from the green leaf coat itself, it's pretty significant. Right? And same with the Sage's Hat. Sage's Hat also has the 4% int with 7 int plus 10% hit points, and of course the Sage's Hat buff. So that's why she actually has these 2 SR items. That, and considering the sheer number of mages I have, I just don't have that many items that I can give to my healers. So she ended up using what is left over, more or less. Right? So, other than these 2, Crystal Ball, of course, is because it provides the immunity to effects that silence active skills. I also think it provides more survivability, in fact, than the Holy Ring does. Because the Holy Ring, while it provides more intelligence, let me just see, where's my Holy Rings? Jeez. The Holy Rings, they provide more intelligence, 75 int, but they don't provide any hit points at all. Right? Whereas the Crystal Ball only provides 49 int, but it does provide 363 hit points. So, that is why she is using a Crystal Ball. And the Crystal Ball also has this very solid hit point increasing enchant, 7% hit points, 6% int with 11 int. You can say this is 7% hit points and 9% int almost, pretty much. Right? So it's a very, very solid enchant once again. And last but not least, she has an Ulver Staff with 7% hit point increase and 30 int increase. I mean, 30 int increase, when you consider that she has 424 base intelligence, you can say this is what? 8% int increase. So, I mean, this provides 7% hit points and 8% int. It's okay. It's acceptable for use. Right? And that's why Chloe has this broken set. It's not a perfect set. Once again, I'm using SSRs, but the whole point was to boost her hit points above 6,000, and she has that. Okay. In terms of the soldiers she brings, I usually just have her bring phalanx soldiers, occasionally bring zealots, but keep in mind my zealots aren't even at level 10. That's why she most commonly brings phalanx soldiers. Right? Highland warriors would be nice, but I don't have them very upgraded either. So by process of elimination, the only soldier she can really use that's at max level is the phalanx. In terms of bonds on my Chloe, well, Chloe's bonds she's pretty high on the list, but the bond progress is only 83%. What that means is I didn't finish her int bond or her heart bond, right? But in terms of toughness, you can see right here, her toughness bond is at level 8. So once again, more of a focus on hit points, survivability, than intelligence. And after Chloe, wow, even Imelda is higher than Liana. I'm going to cover Liana first before I go into the purely PvE healers. How about that? Liana. Ah, this is why Liana's power is so low, because she was bringing weird skills. So if I change up her skills to her normal combo, right? See, her power just went to 61, 64. And that puts her above Chloe. Okay. In any case though, okay. So, Liana, hit points over 6,000 once again. Her equipment, her soldiers is purely Shrine Maidens because of the damage reduction effect that they have. Just like Bolt Rangers, Shrine Maidens do pretty much the same thing. Make her almost impossible to one-shot. My Shrine Maidens though are level 9. They're not level 10. I have gotten one-shotted in PvP before, but that was only in Season 2. With level 9 Shrine Maidens, there was not one time where my Liana ever got one-shotted. So just an interesting point. I really do want to raise these to level 10, but I'm missing the Epic Religion materials books to upgrade them. So over time, I'll get that upgraded. Sorry, let me just claim these expeditions and send them back off, because I am totally going to forget otherwise. Oops, I don't usually do the 2-hour one. So let me just redo that. Okay. And the last expedition. Right, there we go. So, going back to Liana. Bonds wise, Liana has max. Everything is maxed out. And that is why I was so surprised her power rating is so low, as a side note. In truth, and then finally with regards to her, I guess, class upgrades and equipment. Let's do the class upgrades first. Class upgrade. This might actually be a reason why her power rating is also so low. I don't have that many resources committed into her class upgrades. In fact, just 2 skill upgrades, 1 int upgrade, and 1 hit point upgrade. Tons of parts are missing here. And that's once again because she's a mage and I don't have that much mage upgrade items at this time. That explained it. That really does explain it. So that's why Liana's power is so low. In terms of equipment, well, Red Moon with 13% int, right? She has a Tenyos robe with the 10% int, as well as 9% hit points and 137 hit points. A Tenyos headdress with 8% hit points and 3% int. And then a Holy Ring with 7% hit points, 3% int, and 20 int. So, given again her base int of 413 or so, you can say this is basically 5%. So, 7% hit int, 7% hit points, right? Nothing really perfect in any of these enchants, but it's a very, very solid boost on my Liana overall. And I just realized I don't think I covered the Iris's and Chloe's class enchants. And I think that's why they've actually powered up so much. Because I had a lot of holy class enchant items. And I upgraded Chloe, right? So she has 510 int, 43 int, 43 skill, right? So this was done more for PvP purposes, right? Well, hit points always helps, right? And I always rolled that. The skill is absolutely for PvP, and the int is because intelligence affects everything else that she does. So you can see there's int rolls on everything, hit point rolls on everything, and then skill rolls on everything. Nice and simple. Iris. As a mage, I actually ended up upgrading Iris first over Tiaris and Liana. I think my decision there was because Iris, before I did these class upgrades, she was much lower in power compared to the others, right? as a 5-star hero, as an SR, that's no surprise. So I decided to upgrade Iris first. And so she actually has full enchants as a result. The only thing she doesn't have right now is that she's having defense enchants rather than skill enchants on the armor and the headgear slots. Right? So that's reducing the amount of skill increase she has. So that's why you see 96 only plus 33 skill, and as opposed to, let's say, Chloe, who actually did have skill increases in everything, who has 43. Right? So there's that 10 skill difference. Alright, so those are the 4 PvE healers. You can see that they're still work in progress. Like, I still need to finish up Liana, I still need to finish up Tiaris. But that's no surprise. I mean, Ancient Beckoning has only been out for 1 month, so you kind of had to pick and choose thus far with regards to who you enchant and who gets the priority on these enchants and so on. So, with all the PvP healers covered, let's move on to those PvE healers. Right? And the PvE healers are Imelda, Almeda, and Sophia. Imelda first. Imelda. Okay. I originally used her in Season 1 for PvP. That's why she has double class mastery. And as I mentioned, she was almost like a backup option to when I couldn't bring Tiaris. Right? If Tiaris got banned, I usually brought Imelda. And that was because of her Queen's Gauntlet, providing everyone with heroes damage increase of 20%. That allowed my heroes to absolutely guarantee the one-shot on a lot of characters that they wouldn't be able to kill otherwise. For example, Imelda, if she applied Queen's Gauntlet on Zerida, guaranteed a kill on a lot of characters like Elwyn and so on, who I normally would not be able to kill. Just an interesting point, at least for Season 1. Other than that, you know, she was there as a dispeller, as a mass healer to remove debuffs, mass attack occasionally, depending on the situation, but she pretty much always brought regrowth. She always brought free strike. It was just the 3rd skill that changed, depending on the situation. Equipment wise, it was always as you saw here. She ended up with a Purgatory with 10% int and 7% hit points with Breeze Enchant, a Galaxy Cloak with 14% hit point increase and a 4% int increase. This is actually one of the best enchants I've rolled yet for an armor, and it's on Imelda. I mean, I do occasionally move this to other mages, like for example, I might give it to Renee or to Rachel and whatnot, because it's the only one that actually has the 4% int along with an extremely high hit point increase. She has her Gorgeous Red, her exclusive, which had a 3% int increase and 5% hit point increase. And finally a Meditation Ring so that she has immunity to fixed damage. This enchant could have been better, 5% hit points, 4% int. Never bothered to reroll it. You know? I never expected Imelda to one-shot targets in general, and she never really did for me. So she was more there as a healer. The thing with Imelda was her hit points was by far the lowest out of all my healers, 5,000 as you see here. Yeah. And in terms of the class enchants, well, I've stopped using her entirely, except for Guild Wars. So she hasn't gotten any class enchants at all. Bonds wise, Imelda is... I'm not even sure where she is in terms of the bonds. Oh, she's pretty far up actually, near Zerida. 93%, wow. So the only thing she was missing is her heart bond completion. 8 out of 10. I nearly had her complete. I think the reason for that was because towards the end of Season 1, I continued to have Imelda in my party, right, during the playoffs. And I was worried that when I have to play Imelda, she would be an easy one-shot. So I continued to upgrade her heart bonds desperately. But despite that, I didn't even finish her heart bond before I was eliminated by Suin. So I would say mostly, it's really hard for me to say. In a lot of ways, Imelda's building up Imelda was a waste of resources because I no longer use her. But you know what? She's a very sexy character, so that makes it okay, right?
酒飲まないんだっけ。悪いわね。私やっぱり死ねないわ。生きる理由が見つかったからね。
So I have to say, I actually don't regret building up Imelda, you know, but it is what it is. She no longer sees use, long story short, although she still has her gear set. I should probably think of a way to retask this set of gear, because they are really good pieces of equipment, especially the Galaxy Cloak. As for the Purgatory, I definitely bring the Purgatory for certain fights, like the Fenrir battle. When I need to apply debuffs, this Purgatory goes on one of my other mages, like Liana or Rene, depending on who I bring, to single target strike, right? So yeah, the gear does get swapped out as necessary. I think, yeah. In any case, moving on. So after Imelda, there's 2 healers left to cover. And the first healer will be Sophia, then the last one will be Almeda. Sophia. Sophia, the reason she no longer has a staff was because of Yulia stealing away the gift of eternal life that I had. Right? It has a new role, 12% inso currently, and this gift of eternal life used to have a tree of life enchant and was on Klose. Because Klose sometimes used discipline attack, and discipline would do an extra heal with Gift of Eternal Life. But now that Yulia had stolen it, I had no choice but to find a staff to give Klose. And so Sophia lost her staff and ended up with nothing for a while. It was not even noticeable. Like I said, I don't use Sophia for healing. I use her purely to rewind and regenerate. So even though she went without a staff, I actually had no clue. She is next to unkillable because she has Shrine Maidens, and she's usually standing next to Ledin, who will protect her from any kind of attack. So it actually didn't matter that my Sophia had no staff, long story short. That's really what it came down to. She has speed boots because of the extra mobility, Sage attack to buff up Ledin, you know, Tree of Life enchant, once again to buff up Ledin, with an extra 5% defense and magic defense value. Worked out quite well. And yeah, so now she does have a staff again, a level 21, and it'll be enough. I will probably reroll this later to try to get a higher int increase rather than just, 2%? But there's no priority on this because, as I keep saying, she is not my primary healer at all. Anytime I bring Sophia, I have another healer along. And last but not least, I guess Sophia, in terms of bonds, I should cover that briefly. Sophia's bonds are actually recently upgraded because early in Apex Season 1, I actually did use her as one of my 4 healers before I had Iris. Right. So that's why her bonds is max, level 9 on the toughness, level 6 on the strength, and then the heart bond stopped at level 5. Yeah. Reasonably upgraded. Her main survival in the first place comes from Shrine Maidens and whatnot, so this was actually enough for her to survive. I didn't really have a problem with Sophia surviving in general, even in PvP with this kind of setup. Yeah. And then, in terms of, I guess, her class bonds, class mastery, I actually did do int upgrades on her. And the reason I did it was because she is actually a holy class, right? So the fact that she is a holy class meant I had a lot more scrolls. I think I just rolled SR scrolls once every time on each location. So, and I somehow got ridiculously lucky with her. Yeah. There's a 24 upgrade here rather than at the midpoint mark. There's a 19 upgrade here. There's a 6 int upgrade there and a 7 int upgrade here, which is 3 of them were higher than average. With SR scrolls, that's actually amazing. So, this is my Sophia. Not much else to say. And last but not least is Almeda. Almeda now is primarily used just for Guild Wars. Whenever there's a protagonist or Legion of Glory fight, she will be brought next to Ledin. Then she keeps moving alongside Ledin, keeps providing Sage's Hat, and her talent heal can always help out, right? As well as Tornado and the Quick Master debuffs. Class Mastery I already mentioned was 3 out of 4, and yeah, she has hand-me-downs from other characters. The Holy Ring is here in large part because that Holy Ring I think used to be on Tiaris. And once Tiaris got this teddy bear, it became a spare item. So for now, it's sitting on Almeda. In terms of bonds, Almeda is actually surprisingly well upgraded. And I did this because of the Phoenix 65 battle. So her bonds are only at 60%, but you can see it's max level 7 on the soldiers because they didn't need to be higher. She's never melee attacked or attacked in general. So I could have even left it at level 1 and it would not have made a difference. The only effect of the soldier bond is defense and magic defense upgrades. Her toughness bond is at level 1 because once again she was never attacked. Heart bond is at level 1 for the exact same reason, but the strength bond was actually upgraded all the way to level 7. And that was because she did provide healing, so she needed int increase. So at level 7, she was healing enough for the Phoenix level 65 fight for me to clear it. And that's really all you need to know, isn't it? So, nowadays, I don't use her for anything but Guild Wars. Previously, she literally just ran even before the staff, I think. She just ran the Sage's Hat and the Holy Ring. But now she has a level 30 Blue Moon until someone else needs it. Level 30 Galaxy Cloak until these two hit level 50. They're going to sit on Almeda. And yeah, I mean, she does everything I need for Guild Wars auto battling. So there you go. So those are my 7 healers. In truth, it's overkill in the number of healers I have right now. Because when I do Guild Wars, I don't need 7 healers. As I previously mentioned, I only do 3 or 4 auto battle fights per day. So in that sense, having 7 healers, I don't even use them all. But nonetheless, I do have them available, and 4 of them in the first place were built for PvP purposes, so it just makes sense. The final thing I should mention is about these last 2 healers. Because they're purely PvE content, Almeda never got runestones put into her, right? Never needed access to those skills. And then similarly, Sophia is the same. She never got runestones used on her either. So she had Priest and Prophet, and no access to Saints or the Martyr class. Which just makes sense. I mean, in the first place, my Sophia was used temporarily in PvP. As soon as my Iris was fully built, Iris joined the party, and then Sophia was relegated out of the Apex arena. And there you have it. Another, 40-minute video covering 7 characters. It really does seem to take around 5 to 6 minutes to cover each character, so yeah, I'll do a video per day. So I guess the next video will be on either my mages or on my physical attackers. One or the other. We'll see which one I feel like doing tomorrow. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you learned something from this one and that it was useful to you. And on that note, Nitro out.